It's that time again. Wincinnati Roundtable coming up next on the Wincinnati podcast.
It's an exciting time to be a Bengals fan.
Yeah, a little mix up there.
I like it.
It's here. We merged them together. We're here. It's been a while, guys. I figured this was not something that we planned. This was spontaneous. You know, the guys were getting ready to do their show. We're getting ready to do ours. And we're like, man, there's not much to talk about outside of the T. Higgins thing. I know Jake and Zim, you guys have done your show. I know you guys at the Pulse have done your show. But it's been a while since we kind of came together and kind of talked about some things. So I figured this would be a good time, right, Jake?
Absolutely, man. You kidding me? This is the crew. This is the best Bengal content that you will ever hear on any stream, anywhere, together tonight. This is good stuff. You know we love you guys. I mean, this is the. You guys know I'm not a basketball guy, but this is the starting five, right? This is the starting five. Just call me Ant. Just call me Ant.
Oh, no, you don't get to be Ant. No.
I'm Ronnie Cycli.
Ronnie Cycli is crazy. I'm Charles Barkley, I guess, because I've never won a championship, but I will throw a couple elbows. So here we go. We ready to roll. We ready to rock. How you guys doing tonight?
Good, man. How you guys doing?
We're doing good on our side of Wincy. It's crazy. I feel like we're like on a Wincinnati island or something, and I'm just checking the temperature, trying to see what you guys are into. In the comment section, let us know how you beautiful. Y'all looking good tonight in the comment section. Oh, it's a lot of good looking people watching the show tonight. I want to make sure that everybody's good there too. So check in. Let us know where you're watching from. What city are you guys in? Sometimes people tell us they're in a whole nother country. But in the world that we're living in right now, Ace talked about this in the intro. T. Higgins is the topic on a lot of people's mind, and it's hard to get away from that topic. Even though we are looking at all three of these guys potentially getting an extension. When I say three guys, Ja'Marr Chase, Trey Hendrickson, and T. Higgins. Another report that came out today, I don't know if it was news, but shout out to George Schultz. He also posted the fact that Ja'Marr Chase's market is looking like $40 million a year. I don't know if you guys want to expand on that portion too, or where we're going with the T. Higgins. We're just here winging it with the roundtable.
For sure. So before we get started, people that are watching this, you guys can contribute as well. Ask us any questions that you want in the comments. We want this to be a super interactive show. But I'm going to stick to what Zim is saying, and I will throw this to Eric actually first. What are your thoughts on the T. Higgins situation, and what are your thoughts, secondly, on the Ja'Marr Chase market?
T. Higgins, it's like the rest of the world finally sees what we've been saying for so long. We've been talking about this probably going back into last year. I know Zim was talking about the double tag last year. That's all we've ever been talking about. So it's like, okay, the rest of the world finally woke up. I've got Patriots fans that I saw on the football field tonight that said, wait, you guys could tag him? I didn't know you could do that. I've been telling them all year. So it's like the rest of the world finally woke up and saw that, get your own T. Higgins. He's ours. I'm going to rock the T. Higgins jersey until we announce the official news. Until Five gets his, I'll be wearing this for every Bengals Pulse and Wincinnati podcast. So, exciting for me that the rest of the world gets to see what Cincinnati's been talking about. Maybe they'll finally give you guys some credit for throwing this stuff out there before. Ja'Marr Chase, give that man $42 million average a year, guarantee 65% of it, whatever it takes, just get it done. Clearly the best receiver in the league, offensive player of the year that didn't get his title. just take care of business. I mean, we did our free agency show, or one of our free agency shows, just a few days ago, and we didn't touch on Jamar Chase. And I was going back and forth with the guys. I don't know why we didn't touch on that show, but it's kind of a given. We know what he's going to get. Just throw it in there and let the rest of the cap be what it is. So I'm psyched. I'm ready for it. I took March 10th off just to sit and watch Twitter all day long and see those signings.
Nah, for sure. That's what the diehard Bengals fans do. As you guys know, this diehard Wincinnati podcast is powered by BetUS. Make sure you check them out. Right now, the NBA is back tonight. So if you are into the NBA, unlike Jake here, you can play some bets in there on the Lakers. The Lakers and Hornets tonight. So check that out. If you're not into basketball like Jake, check out the casino. They have that stuff going on. If you want to get into the craps, if you want to get into blackjack and all of that, they got some good stuff over there. Before I swing it to Zim, Mom, what are your thoughts on T. Higgins as well as the Jamar Chase situation?
Real quick on that, I just want to talk about the Bengals. I will talk about T and Jamar, but on ESPN the last 2 days, they're devoting full segments to T. Higgins. Get Up had one talking about him potentially leaving. First Take tonight on SportsCenter, they talked about Chase and Higgins, how they could potentially cost $70 million, and are they going to be able to do it? They are going to do it. Jamar Chase is a given. He's going to get $40 million a year. We know that. But T. Higgins, they franchise tag him. That's $26 million on the books. Guys, we're not that far off if he goes to 30. So what? You know, it's not like it's a giant gap. It really isn't. And I think he's deserving of $30 million. Guys, Burrow, Chase, and Higgins, that trio right there they feed off each other. It's a synergy. I mean, they need each other. They're good individually, but they're better together. And it's going to happen. It's just a matter of time. You know, the Bengals are notoriously a little tough in contract negotiations, but they're going to get to the finish line. They will sign both. It's going to happen. 28, 30 million a year for T, 40, maybe 40 plus for Jamar.
Zimmy.
I mean, I feel like you guys touched on a lot of the subjects that, you know, I think haven't really been new to this pod, and it's part of the reason why I think we're considered diehard, you know, content creators or enthusiasts, fans, whatever you want to, you know, label us as. I think the market and how we pay attention to the percentage of a cap is how the Bengals look at it and how most GMs in the National Football League look at it. One of the main arguments that people are saying is, why don't you get the Jamar Chase deal done, you know, last year? And that's fair, and they're correct. And Bengals made a colossal mistake by not getting out in front of it. There is also another argument too, and I wish I could find a tweet of this guy, and I tweeted it out last year, and I was looking for it earlier. But I know I showed it to you, Chase. I said Chase, but Ace. But the argument that he was making is that Jamar Chase almost shouldn't even have signed it even last year because of the cap going up. And if you're paying attention to the percentage of a cap, if the cap has gone up about $22 million or so, then there's more room in the hypothetical Duke Tobin pie. And so even if he's getting 40 opposed to the 36 or 30, whatever it would have been last year, as a percentage of the cap, the Bengals probably are going to go get it. Just like the price of living in the United States is going up as well, too. So 36 last year versus $36 million today is different. So the main point that I'm trying to make is that they made a mistake, but I don't think it changes how the Bengals look at the percentage of a cap that Jamar Chase's salary would take. And I think overall, the whole sentiment has always been he's got to be the highest paid. I think that if he wanted to be generous, he would be at $37.5 million per. That to me would be like a discount. He won a Triple Crown. He should get $40 million. And there's no need for the Bengals to try to lowball that or do any weird stuff, in my opinion. I think that the 37.5 I'm throwing out there would just represent the extra $2 million or so that the Bengals might be off with T. Higgins in a hypothetical situation. Maan, you said 28 to 30. I think the Bengals would say, with this new market, giving that that's the number one free agent in all of football, we know his injury history. We're going to dink him a little bit for that. But at the same time, we think maybe he's worth 26, 27. The extra $2 million, Jamar Chase and now T. Higgins now share the same agent. the agent collects the same amount of money as a percentage of their contracts. So the money would be the exact same, but one guy might take a little bit less, not a hometown discount, on the strength of, okay, y'all wanted to give him 26, give my boy 28, 29, just so we can move on with this whole thing. The agent doesn't mind because it's literally the same money that he would have had in both scenarios. I think that they should get it done as soon as possible. I saw a tweet, me and Ace was just talking on the phone about this, or I thought about this and I tweeted out. They did do the Dunlap and Geno Atkins press conference together. I do want to just mention that.
Jake, before we get it to you, I just want the fans out there that are listening to know that today, obviously, the salary cap went up. So it will fall in the range of $277.5 to $281.5 million, way up from last year, which was $255. According to Over the Cap, I don't know if they're just looking at the low end of that, if they're just looking at the $277 million. That would give the Bengals about $53 million to play with before they do any of those cuts that we're kind of speculating on. But Jake, what are your thoughts on these two situations with our two-star receivers?
Yeah, I mean, I think the guys hit it on the head. I mean, this is listen, this is something I think we all saw it coming. We knew that T was probably going to get tagged again, but now we are hearing talks that, you know, there is stuff in the works, that the agents and the Bengals right now are in talks. It sounds like this is a little bit more of a mutual thing where the Bengals are saying to them, hey, listen, we're going to go ahead and tag you, but now our long-term is to extend you. And I think you're going to see that you're not going to hear a lot of the negativity that we did last year with T getting tagged. Listen, with the cap going up, with Jamar, I mean, Jamar's already talked about, you know, taking a lot of money up front to make that cap hit less this year. I think that's a huge talking point when we're talking about these two guys getting their deals done, because I truly believe that Jamar is going, and you don't hear about this a lot, but I believe Jamar is going to take a friendlier hit, so to speak, this year to get T back as well. But T, listen, the Bengals are getting this done, and I'm going to throw in Trey Hendrickson because I think Trey's going to get done too. I really believe everything that we're hearing is, you know, I was talking to my buddy today about this, is the Bengals are actually feeling pressure, I think, for the first time, where, you know, before Maan and I have talked about this, you know, Carson Palmer tried to apply pressure. Other guys have tried to apply pressure, but Joe Burrow just has that way about him when he speaks. I feel like the Bengals listen, and I'll be honest with you. I think Zim and I talked about this when him and I did our show. Trey, I think Mike Gesicki, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins all are going to get signed or extended here in this free agency period. And I think we're going to see a lot of cuts. Again, we've talked about it on our show. Zim and I talked about it as well. I think this is going to be a crazy Bengals offseason, maybe some cuts that we weren't expecting before. But I think there's going to be a huge flip on this roster. But I think it's all going to start with T. And it sounds like right now T is priority to the Bengals front office. I think they're tired about hearing this. I think they want to get it done. And I'll be honest with you, I think something gets done before free agency kicks off March 11th.
Hey, can I say one thing? Let me ask y'all this too. I want to ask Ace this. I've made this comment, I think, on the last show we were on. Don't you feel like, in a weird way, if the Bengals just knock out these signings, doesn't it take a lot of the pressure off of? I know that they probably feel the heat of this right now, but doesn't it make it almost like an easy out for them to be like, hey, Joe Burrow, you said you want to trade Hendrickson, T. Higgins, and the guys. We gave you what you wanted. Even if they don't sign like that many other people, like, doesn't it almost like get him like, whew, it's all on you now, Joe Burrow. Doesn't it feel like that a little bit to you?
Yeah, I think if you were to tell me the Bengals were not big players in free agency, but that meant the sacrifice Thanos style would be keeping Trey Hendrickson, T. Higgins, Mike Gesicki, let's throw him in there, and Jamar, I'm taking that over any of those free – like, I don't care about these guys that are out there. I know a lot of people have been talking about the guy from the Cowboys and all that. I'm keeping T. Higgins, Trey Hendrickson, and all of those guys over that. If I can lock them up for the foreseeable future, I'm doing that. And I'm just taking my chances in the draft. Maybe I'm still taking some chances on some lower tier free agents, but if you could guarantee me that, I think that the Bengals would be able to say, hey, Joe, we've gotten what it is that you asked for, and I don't know what else you want from us, because, I mean, that's all that would be a big significant portion of the money. And I'm not mad at them investing within that core in terms of the money. And I do think that they are going to have to make those decisions where it's like, we're not so sure about this guy. It's time to just go ahead and cut your losses and start to rebuild. When people are talking about the Bengals can't afford this, I'm looking at what the Eagles have right now. You're talking about Jalen Hurts, that's $51 million per year. A.J. Brown, that's $32 million per year. Devonta Smith, that's $25 million per year. Malata, the tackle, I think he's actually a guard. They got him at $22 million per year. Landon Dickerson, $21. Lane Johnson, $20. Bryce Huff, $17. We're not even asking for that. You keep these guys that we have here, plus you're talking about, obviously you got to play Joe. Obviously you got to pay T. Obviously you got to pay Jamar. You pay Trey and Orlando Brown. And I think anybody else outside of that, like if you shouldn't have to pay somebody double-digit millions outside of those guys, I think, with this team, because those are some of the staples of this team. I think with the T. Higgins situation, they get it done. I'm looking at Devonta Smith. His average is $25 million a year. If you could get T for 26 or something like that, or 28, I think that you try to pull the trigger on that. Who's to say how much of it is guaranteed? I don't think you'll be looking at 80% or anything like that from a guarantee standpoint. So even though people may see that number close to 30, that doesn't mean that it's going to be an actual legit 30 from that standpoint. I think with the Trey Hendrickson situation, if he's just really set on, like he said last season, years, I would probably at first see if, hey, Trey, if you're getting $21 million now, are you good with still getting $21 million, or is it that you want to get something added on to that? Because the last season when he talked about it, he claimed in that interview, now this is obviously him having another 17-sack season, but after that season, he said that the issue wasn't that he wanted to raise. The issue was that he wanted more years. So if he's okay with staying at the same number, I think that makes it easier for him to get done. Jamar Chase is Jamar Chase. He's going to get what he wants. But I do think something is valuable. What Jake is saying is, if let's just say they're like $3 million a year away from it on T. Higgins, and Jamar Chase is like, I can sacrifice my $3 million and give it to T for him to stay, I think he might actually do that. Like, if it was somebody other than T, I don't think he would do it. But considering how close he is with T, like knowing that he values T, because even though a lot of people talk about Jamar Chase, he clearly values T himself. He's also been somebody that's kind of stuck up for him. I think that he would consider shifting some of that money towards T.
Yeah,
I agree. I just want to add one thing. You know, we went to back-to-back AFC championship games, and the Bengals front office was at an all-time high with the fan base. The fan base was like, hey, man, they couldn't praise him enough. The last 2 years, this front office has taken a hit. A lot of the fans are fired up, and it's legitimate. If they sign these big three, we're going to jump back on the ship.
Everybody's back at Paycor. Everybody's back.
Yeah, I've never officially jumped off, but I've been pretty critical of some of their decisions. They get this done, it's going to be huge. It's going to help heal the fan base a little bit. And, Ace, I still think they might be able to get a couple really solid guys in free agency, but, they just have to be a little creative, and I think they're going to get it done. Zim, that's a good point, though, man. 26, 27, and if we could get Jamar for 38 or 39, that'd be a home run for the Bengals. It really would be. They could allocate that money to Higgins or Hendrickson. It's going to be an interesting 3 weeks.
Can you imagine Jamar Chase on the open market with a team like the Browns or something out there, like in the world? Like, bro,
$50 million a year.
50. There's 4 teams that would desperately pay Jamar Chase $50 million. Even the $40 million, I know our fans are probably scoffing at it somewhat, depending on, how you feel about, whatever. I just feel like when a guy, and I posed this on Twitter, Jamar Chase is and I said this on our show, Jack, when we were on the show together, Jamar Chase is the best player in football, the best non-quarterback in football to me. And I think he should be compensated at a top level. Now, I don't want that to jeopardize the team. I'm pro Bengals. I'm also pro player, I guess. But I just think he's deserving of it. He's 24 years old, youngest Triple Crown ever. Like, all of this is, like, to me, a no-brainer to me, because whether it works out or not, the amount of money on your return is going to come back tenfold with a Jamar Chase in the building. Like, kids love Jamar Chase at Cincinnati Bengals football. Like, you're going to see more Chase and Burrow jerseys than you've ever seen ever in your life. So the Bengals, it's a non-risk. It would be like somebody calling you and saying, "Hey, I got the new Facebook." You think you're going to tell them no? You're going to say, "Shit, honey, I'm dumping out the whole savings on this. We got the new Facebook." Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow, the new Facebook. Like, and if you knew you had a way to invest in that, you would do so if you knew anything about making some money.
So I got this question for you, Zim. It's coming from Bob Stedge. Who do we look at in free agency to fill the gaps in our lines? And I'm assuming he's talking about offensive line and defensive line.
Great question. Now, the question that I posed to you just a second ago, the one thing that I also have a field day with is, remember how they say, well, how y'all going to pay? How y'all going to get a defense? How can you pay? That will be, and I saw a comment, somebody said, yeah, don't let the front office off the hook. Just paying those guys, that's not enough. I just think that that's the starting line. That's the baseline of what they should do. Now, when you factor in the fact that Kappa, Rankins, Pratt, Sam Hubbard, all those guys are now going to be gone, you're now talking about an extra 20-30 million. So just to put this in perspective, and shout out to Jake Lisco posed this. I know Andre Parada has posed this also. I've also got tweets to say this too. Once they get those cuts, the amount of money that they'll have in cap space is probably neighboring $85 to $90 million. And the best part is this: Jamar Chase and Trey Hendrickson and T. Higgins factor into that number. So now you have money left over. You're like, what? Yeah, Bengals are going to have about $80 million after they get those signings done if they do those cuts that I just said. Because and that's Jamar Chase at $40 million, T. Higgins at 30, Trey Hendrickson at 30, right? So that sounds crazy to everybody, but that's what happens when the cap goes up. The guys that I think that they should fill in that spot, I will go at the Will Fries or Will Freeze, however you say his name. That will be my big splash guard signing. I will also get a Brandon Sheriff or a Zeitler, and that will be my supplement second base Trent Brown level guy that I say this is a guy that potentially would be the starter, but letting you know right now, Zeitler or Brandon Sheriff, I am going to draft a guard before the first 3 rounds of this NFL draft. If they come in there and kick your ass, then you're just on the team as well, and we're going to all kick ass together. I would then go to the defensive side of the ball, and I would go get the kid Osa. And the reason why I'm saying get him, I feel like 26 years old. He's in the price point that you probably want to be at. You don't want to shoot for the highest in free agency and overspend. You probably are going to have to guarantee more than what you will want, but he's an ascending player that's just coming off his best season with 7 sacks. You get a Rankins replacement. You're trying to recreate what you did with Ogunjobi. And again, you go back to the draft and you still draft another defensive lineman before the first 2 rounds in the NFL draft. So now you're rotating Jenkins, Osa, Miles Murphy, Trey Hendrickson, Cam Sample coming off an injury, guy in the draft, and you probably still got $40 million left in cap space.
Jake, who are you thinking? I know you and Zim did the show, but let people know who you're thinking about in free agency.
Yeah, Zim and I are on the same page here. We talked about this the other night. Is, first of all, I'm going to say this. I think even with Trey and even with Jamar and even with T and even with Mike Gesicki, all 4 of those guys getting done, I'm going to tell you guys right now, the Bengals are going to make a splash at guard. We have heard this front office talk about it. We heard Zach Taylor talk about it. That's not something that is being brought up for a guy you're looking at drafting. That is, we're going to make a splash and go out and get a legit guard to protect our quarterback. And I could also see, honestly, Maan and I and Zim and I both have talked about this. I could see the Bengals going out in free agency and getting 2 guards, one at a top tier, one at a mid tier. I would love to see Zeitler back. I think he would be a good bridge player. But I do think you got to go out and make a splash. And a guy like Will Freeze, I think would be perfect. I mean, I know he's had some injury issues. Even if you want to go bigger with a Trey Smith, I really think the Bengals are going to make a big splash. Again, the guard position has been talked about so much from this organization. I think they understand that Kappa and Volson are not getting it done. And I want to throw this out here too, because I think we got this tweet about Geno Stone talking about, well, I'm back next year. I'm bringing it back, or whatever he said. Kind of looking at it like, okay, well, he's coming back. There is not going to be a cut there. I could still see the Bengals going out and trying to get a safety and make a splash at that position too, just because I think they are still trying to fix the Jesse Bates issue, which they haven't been able to do. They haven't been able to do it through the draft. But I want to say this last thing. If you get Jamar and you get T and you get Mike Gesicki, you get those guys re-signed, you go out, you get a veteran running back, at a vet price, you can focus all of your attention on the defense in the draft, except for maybe going out and getting a guard there in the first couple rounds, just a guy that you can develop. But to me, you build the defense in the draft, you build the offense in free agency when we're talking about the trenches. And I see the Bengals trying to go that route because, again, we know the history of this team. They have not been good at developing offensive linemen. They have not been good at developing defensive linemen for the most part. I know there's the Dunlaps and the Geno Atkins and those guys, but for the most part, they have struck out. I mean, they're batting about 100 right now when it comes to the trenches. So I think that is what we're going to see is build the offensive line through free agency, which we've seen already, build the defensive line through the draft.
Yeah, I think I know a guy that the Bengals kind of were looking at. I'm still on this train. I don't know if it's probably going to be a little bit more expensive this time around, but I still think, debating on how much he's going up. I don't know if it could be a drastic change, but Mekhi Becton. I think I'm still in on the Mekhi Becton thing. He's young. He's a guy that has that size. Like we talk about the 3'8", 360-pound guys on the line. He would make the Bengals one of the heaviest lines in the NFL, if not the biggest one. There were questions last year around this time. Could he play guard? I think it's proven that him winning the Super Bowl with Philadelphia being a really good guard for them could bode well, especially with Philadelphia having, potentially trying to keep that championship roster together. He could be a guy that could possibly get moved on from. So I'm keeping an eye on him. And I'm still sticking with the bargains.
Wasn't that a weird situation too, Ace? That whole Mekhi Becton thing in free agency, it was like we thought it was a done deal. Joe Burrow's hanging out with them. And I almost feel like Frank Pollock, I don't know. I feel like he was part of that.
Yeah, something happened. I mean, because he didn't take – I was just looking at the contracts that Philadelphia gave him. It was 100% guaranteed, but it literally was not that much money. It was $2.75 million. Like I could only – at the bank, $2.75 million. He was better than Alex Kappa. And,
yes.
God, I mean, I just don't understand why he wouldn't play for the Bengals for $2.75 million. I don't know if the Bengals offered him less than that. I don't know, but I would definitely return to the conversation with him. Another guy, I'm also trying to take a swing on this guy. He's going to be 27, but Levi Onwuzurike or something like that from the Detroit Lions, a guy that could fly up under the radar, and that's something that you got to do. Sometimes you got to take chances on guys that may have had injuries and stuff in the past because the price is going to be a lot cheaper. So he's a guy I probably would call him a great value version of Osa because he's 27. He's been healthy over his first 4 seasons. He was a guy that was drafted in the 2nd round. He literally just had a 12.5% pass rush win rate. That put him at the top 15 position mark at the position. So if he's somebody that's sliding under the radar that teams aren't thinking about, I'm definitely sending something out on him. But yeah, I think that if you're attacking the trenches, you definitely got to try to get some bargains there, or you can try to make a splash if you have it. Eric and Maan, what are you guys' thoughts on free agency?
Eric, you want to go? Well, there's a couple players that I really like. I understand there's a lot of older guys, Zeitler, who should have never left. There's the guy, Zach Martin from Dallas. A lot of guys, they would be Band-Aids or good players. They're in their 30s. There's a couple younger guys that have played on good teams. One won a Super Bowl. I love Aaron Banks from the 49ers. He's about 6'5", 330. He's a bigger guy. He's a really good run blocker. He started for a great offensive unit. He's trending. He's gotten better each year. And he's only 27. I think PFF has him making about, I think they're projecting a 3-year, $25 million contract, $24 million. I would love to see the Bengals get him. He's only 27. He could be a potential, he would be an upgrade over what we have big time right now. I still think this team is going to draft somebody in the first 3 rounds, a guard that potentially could fill in the next couple of years. Another player played for the Ravens, Patrick Mekhi. I think he played tackle, he's played center, he's played guard, he's very versatile. He's only 27. That's another guy they could look at. They're lower tier, they're probably 2nd tier. Of course, I would love to have the guy from Kansas City, Trey Smith. That's not going to happen. He's going to make $20+ million a year. But there's a lot of options this year. We are definitely going to upgrade the position because they're not going to roll out Kappa and Volson next year. They can't do it.
Your boy Tevin Jenkins got rid of the glasses. Maybe he's a possible option here because he's going to be out there. He's scheduled to make, possibly projected by PFF, 13 million. And PFF was pretty spot on with this, especially when our guy Brad was still with them. He's since left the company, but not something to take with a grain of salt because they've kind of been on point when it comes to some of these projections in terms of the contracts.
People gotta go back and go do their Wincinnati homework because that is a good one. Brad Spielberger, cap specialist for Pro Football Focus. We definitely interviewed him and talked about all these different circumstances and talked about a potential tag and trade. Talked about a lot of different things even beforehand. I think a lot of people. You had said something about a safety. I do want to read some of the comments though, because a lot of people are talking about Jevon Holland. Now, the big splash that I'm saying will be like Will Freeze. If you really pay attention to the cap space that they do have, there is a world where they could potentially sign a big splash free agent on defense as well too. And if I had to take a guess, I think it will come from like the safety position as well too, because they've never solidified something where it's just a given at this point. But I think that that's more of an Al Golden kind of, thing where I think maybe that's his call. But there aren't many top of the line, top of the market defensive free agents that I think guys are really looking at. And I think that's why you brought up Levi. And I even had a conversation with somebody. So who would you prefer, Levi or Osa? And I said Osa, but to me, I like both of those because they're right in the age price point that you would want to be at. And you're not at the highest of the high level. You're at that B minus level. And then if it doesn't work out like what you want, you still got Chris Jenkins and company to rotate with them. So to me, that's where I think they will be at. But if they were going to go get top market defensive guy, I think Jevon Holland kind of fits the mold because he's got the age and he's proven. And I think that Jordan Battle hasn't shown them as much as I think he's talented. I don't think that he's shown them enough to say that that's a guy that we could pencil in for like forever. And then you factor in the fact that Geno Stone had the rough year, but as Ace pointed out earlier today, I saw your tweet where he finished out the year strong. But I'm tired of variability with this team. And I think if you're in the Super Bowl window, that's one thing that they got to get rid of is like start hedging their bets and start to put guys behind it and have different. And it just because you got a good room, say it's a wide receiver room, or say you got a good, running back room, and you feel good about Chase Brown, that doesn't mean that I won't add another guy in the 5th or 6th round. That's what good teams do. You talked about the Eagles. How about Huff, who signed a $51 million deal? People don't talk about this. Well, the greatness of Howie Roseman is a guy that did not play well. He got outperformed by another guy that was behind him, and he was a healthy scratch for the Super Bowl. And it's not a big deal for them because they supplemented the position with other guys and Jalen Carter's and Ojimo and all these other dudes that they're rotating in there. And that's what really good teams do.
And Jevon Holland, guys, turns 25 in 2 weeks. 25 years old, perfect when you're talking about age and value. He is the top safety on the market. He would make a huge impact on this Bengals team. Huge.
And I think the other thing, even in a round where Geno Stone was still on the roster, he came from a system where technically Geno Stone wasn't the starter, right? So, like, even though he got all of those interceptions, he doesn't have to be a starter in that room. He could be a part of a rotation and still kind of have a role where he's still allowed to be effective sitting around other safeties as well. And I think that I had a conversation with someone, and someone that was not a Bengals fan told me, it was like, well, you guys got Geno Stone. He's really kind of a backup. He's not necessarily a starting safety. It was like he had a good year, but he wasn't necessarily the starter. It was kind of like the role that he kind of played on that. And so if that is the circumstance that they kind of roll into where he's not a starter, but he is kind of a ball hawk or something like that, or he's someone that you put in with Jevon Holland where you would take Jordan Battle out, if it's a coverage kind of play, it would make sense. Or they could move on from him, or they could go and get Watson in the draft. But Zim, you said something about the running back room. We got a question here from Solomon.
Let's go.
If we get a chance to draft Ashton Jeanty, do we go and get him? I think this is going to be a very interesting.
No,
I know some people are going to get up in arms about it because it's like the Chase Brown. And to be honest, if you're not aware, him and Chase Brown kind of have similar body types. But looking at the draft profiles today, he's the number 1 graded person in the draft.
Who? Gentry?
Jeanty, yes.
He got a lot of miles on. For me personally, it's too rich for my blood where you would have to draft him. But I'm going to tell y'all a scary team that I think would draft him, and it would scare the crap out of everybody. It's 2 different teams. Well, I wouldn't care if he went to the Browns. I really wouldn't. But, I'm doing my AFC North show, and we had to submit our free agent picks, and overwhelmingly all the Ravens people had him down there. So can you imagine a backfield with Jeanty, Derrick Henry, and Lamar Jackson running at you? Like that would be crazy. And where they're drafting at, that's not too rich for my blood. Pick 17, that's just insane. I don't know. I don't believe in drafting a running back in the first round unless he's like something I've never seen before. And Jeanty's comp is like Doug Martin right now. Really, really good running back. I like him a lot. I think he'll be phenomenal. I'm more interested in, and I'm surprised more people from Ohio State, especially with all of our listeners. I think that Henderson, this might be a bold prediction. I think he's going to be a better NFL running back than Jeanty. I think he probably gets drafted like 3rd or 4th round, but the way that he runs and how explosive he is, and mind you, Ohio State had all those wide receivers, so they didn't utilize him like they probably should have. I think his NFL career, I think that Henderson's going to explode.
Has everybody forgot about Chase Brown?
Has Jeanty's, they think that his comp is LaDainian Tomlinson.
Has everybody forgot about Chase Brown? I mean, the guy just had almost 1,400 total yards.
So, Jake, the point is
no Ashton.
Let me
ask you this. Let me phrase it this way. If Jahmyr Gibbs was in this draft and you were at 17, would you consider drafting him? Yes or no?
You got it. Not in hindsight. Before you got to pose it like that. Not if you know that
Jake. We were in on Jahmyr Gibbs.
Everybody, I feel like wanted Jahmyr Gibbs when he was available. So, like, if Jahmyr Gibbs was in this draft right now, which I honestly think Jeanty is better than Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm going to be honest with you.
But
If he was in this draft
Going
right
back
now,
in time, I didn't want a running back. I didn't want Gibbs.
I don't want to run it back that early.
I think the only
is it because it doesn't fit the philosophy of the team? You
well,
guys
I think not only that, but then we had Joe Mixon, and we wanted a complimentary back to Joe Mixon. To me, Jahmyr Gibbs is Chase Brown. I mean, listen, when I say that, Jahmyr Gibbs is obviously, I think he's a little bit higher of a level of running back, but it's the same type of back, right? Before we had the Joe Mixon, we had the Lightning and the Thunder idea, but Lightning, I mean, you're using the 17th overall pick to get a guy that you already have.
I think you answered your question, though. You answered your question. You said, "What does everybody forget about Chase Brown?" I think people like me are looking for Thunder. I don't want Lightning and Lightning. I want Thunder.
I do too. And is Ashton Jeanty Thunder?
No,
he's 215. But you're talking about a future potential All-Pro running back.
Listen, I'm just thinking.
Brown?
I want the Bengals to get the best player available. Mm-hmm. I don't want them reaching.
That's a luxury pick, man. That's a big time luxury pick.
But Jake, this is what I'm saying. Right now, he is the number one graded prospect out of everybody on the list. So if you're saying you're taking best player available, he might be the best player available, especially if he's there at 17.
If he's at 17, I'll pick up the phone if an NFC team is calling, and we will trade down, and I'll give them Ashton Jeanty. Listen, we only have 6 picks.
Yes.
Give me 2 more picks. You can have Ashton Jeanty, NFC, not Baltimore Ravens. NFC, you can have Ashton Jeanty. I'll pick up the phone and move down.
This is how you know I'm getting older, Ace. Like the old me 2 years ago, I'd have been like, yeah, weapons on weapons. But I'm at the point now, I'm like, bro, the Bengals have a top 3 offense with T. Higgins. I would love for them to add a tight end. I would love for them to add. I just think you could go get a running back. Like people in the comments, I want to make sure I acknowledge the comments tonight too. People are saying like Nick Chubb, you got Dobbins, you got all these. Now he might be kind of washed, but still, you have all these different versions of that you could add with Chase Brown for like a fraction of the cost. And think about how much help we need on defense or how much help we need on the offensive line. It's just because
I wouldn't be for him just because the offense isn't made up around running backs. Like if I was a Baltimore, like you guys are saying, or if I was a Philadelphia where I use more than one running back, then I would consider it. But it's not the offense that really suits him, and we don't run the ball enough to justify picking a guy 17th, and you don't really run the ball like that.
And our defense sucks. I mean, let's just be very clear about that. Like our defense, we have got to get better. We've got to get more athletic on defense. Our defense sucks. We cannot be taking a running back with a 17th overall pick.
One thing I will say, just as a little pushback, Jake, is our running game sucks too. Like as much as you guys love Chase Brown, the Bengals were like 30th in rushing last year. Like
you're absolutely right.
So let's go get some guards.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the Bengals need to get some guards. They definitely tried to lighten in a little bit, like not on purpose, but they kind of had to with the running backs that they had last year. And I don't know. I don't know what's going to fix the run game for this team. I think that's what people are desperate for with Jeanty, but I don't think Jeanty is going to fix the issue.
Our run game sucked not because of Chase Brown. Our run game sucked. Mon, am I right? Our run game sucked because of the interior of our offensive line, Mon.
And Zach Moss.
Guys,
don't forget that.
When you have double-digit leads, late in the game, you need to start putting teams away. That's where you got to be able to run the ball a little bit to try to, keep Lamar on the bench, keep some of these guys on the bench. So we can't do that as a team. Our running game, Ace is right. It's smoke and mirrors. It's a smoke and mirrors running game.
There is a thunder in this draft. It's Cam Scatterbo.
Okay,
that's who you go get later on to add. Then you have your Lightning and your Thunder.
So just so the audience is clear, we're not against running back. It just doesn't have to be Jeanty at 17. we do think that
I would take him. I'm still on the 2 years
You
ago.
would take
So
him.
Jeanty.
I would take him.
And pick
If he's
17.
there at
I would.
17 and
Honestly,
if he's there at 17, I'm taking him.
honestly,
Or
I would,
I'm getting a king's ransom for him.
Wow.
if you had Jeanty with this freaking like T. Higgins and Jamar Chase and Chase Brown, it would be great, but I couldn't justify it just because I can't. If I'm getting Jeanty and I have Chase Brown, I can't have it be like an 8-carry game or something. Like he has to be used as a receiver or some form or fashion for me to even justify it. Like that's the only way I can't justify using a first round pick, especially with the needs that we have on him. Now, if they go out in free agency and they get some guards and they get a D tackle,
Okay.
I might consider that. I might consider that then, but I just have to see how free agency.
Can we? I did want to read this though. It's got Michael Rolfe. I believe I'm saying his name correct, but he put in. He's got 2 super chats. I don't give a bleep who the Bengals take at 17 as long as it's not a project player, immediate impact player only. Even if it's a non-premium position, go get Mike Green or another dog. Some of these linebackers, Warren the tight end, Jeanty, the running back as well. Can I say too, the same conversation about Warren and is a good conversation too, because unlike the running back position for our team, there isn't anybody in place currently right now. And Warren would represent the number 1 tight end in the whole entire draft. We're going to have time to analyze it further, but let's just say hypothetically, if you
Warren
had
is up there too. Warren is 1, 2, 3, 4. He's up there. He's the 4th ranked prospect. He's right after Travis Hunter.
Now, I haven't looked at the tape on him enough to know does he have any blocking ability at all. I've only seen highlights at him, so I'm very early in this process. But I think a better conversation, and it's not as sexy because Jeanty, you know what I'm saying? Like it's such a polarizing player right now. But Warren will represent something that the Bengals don't have on their team at all.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And to me, the conversation of best available now comes into play. But if I got the second best defensive edge right there, whether it's Mike Green or whether it's Pierce or whether it's whoever the hell you like, whether it's Walter Nolan is a defense and interior, and they represent the second, third best, how does that weigh up against your mindset is, hey, look, the Bengals could go get a tight end for the next 4 years that Joe Burrow can grow with. We don't have to go this free agent route. Mike Gesicki is really just a big wide receiver. Isn't that like something that Bengals fans should probably be taking a look at as well, too?
For sure. I mean, he's graded. Warren is graded as a year 1 starter. So
he's a bigger impact to me than Jeanty is. Warren makes more sense to me than Jeanty, only because, like Zim said, we don't have a Warren. We don't have a Warren. We have a Jeanty. We don't have a Warren.
We don't. We don't have a Jeanty. I don't know if you guys watched any college football, but we don't have a Jeanty. The dude was like breaking off long runs over and over. 2,600. Here's his stats. I had to pull up his stats. 2,600 yards last year. Every highlight, it was a touchdown. Average 7 yards a carry. 29 touchdowns, a long of 77. In his previous 2 years, he's been out there 3 years, average 5.3, average 6.1. We don't have a Jeanty. We love Chase Brown. Let's be real. If Jeanty produces in the NFL at 80% of what he produces last year, he is transitional running back. We've been saying it over and over and over. You got to pick the position, the best player.
We will draft another
with
running
Eric
back
on this. I love Chase Brown, right? But we're talking about an all-pro, like one of the top running back prospects to come out in a while. Like, I don't think we can sit here and definitively say like Chase Brown is better than him.
Listen, let's not forget. Achilles Smith did the exact same thing.
Oh my God!
Listen. All I'm saying is this: you cannot compare college player to NFL player. You cannot do that. You cannot compare those two guys at all.
Jay,
let me tell you
he's going to be a great player. He is going to
tell you this. when he played against Penn State's defense, a pro-style defense with pro players, they shut his ass down.
All right. So Jake, let me say this.
What about that bowl game?
Let me say this, Jake. What pro players was he playing with? Exactly.
I know that's fine. You can't say he rushed for. Listen, you can't say he rushed for 2,600 yards against the Mountain West, and all of a sudden say he's going to be the next LaDainian Tomlinson. That's lunacy.
We don't even run the ball. We don't even run the ball enough with Chase Brown. How do people think?
We all agree that we need another running back. Chase Brown doesn't have the body to run 300 balls a game.
That's another thing we're not talking about. Chase Brown got hurt, guys. He didn't finish the season when he was the main running back.
Well, look what the Lions did. They had a good running back in Montgomery. They drafted Jahmyr Gibbs at 12. We wanted Jahmyr Gibbs at later in the draft. The Lions took him, and they've used them both. They've had injuries. If everything we've said is you don't ever want to go and have the best player available, and you don't take him because you go for the best player available at a position of need.
This is crazy. I think I'm on the BPA side now, because if you're telling me that you're going to take another project player, and I don't mean no disrespect saying this, but like Myles Murphy wasn't a straight up ready day one player. He has a load of potential, right? We already know he can be a dog, but we know day one when he's stepping on the field, he's not a finished product yet. If you're telling me that I got to wait on another player like that, or I have the chance to take somebody like Jeanty, I might take Jeanty, bro. I'm going to be honest with you.
Let me pose this to you, though. This is the thing, and I want to get the Michael Ross others super chat.
Go ahead.
But one of the couple points is like the running back that I want to add is just a complimentary piece to Chase Brown to take the burden off of the heavy runs and the heavy lifting. I'm not looking for two number ones. It's not like the wide receiver position where I got two number ones on the outside. Like I only have one rock. So you're talking about a team that doesn't run the ball enough now. And then my final point that I want to bring up too is even if Saquon Barkley was on the Cincinnati Bengals, as I'm reading like this, think about this. Do y'all think that Saquon Barkley would get anywhere near 2,000 yards on the Bengals? Right. And so with that being said, even if Jeanty was Saquon Barkley, which I don't think that he's going to be, I could be proven wrong. Bijan, they told me the same thing about Bijan Robinson. He's a good running back, right? But on the Bengals, it's just the utilization of them also coupled with the fact that they don't have good enough guard play to even maximize the potential to make him Saquon, even if he was Saquon. It would be like the New York Giants running out Saquon Barkley. We'd be like, why do they just keep on running into the same holes over and over again? And they're not getting any yards from it. And I just think that maybe he'll break some or whatever, but there's only one football, and we already have Chase Brown. If anybody wants to respond, that's cool, but I do want to read this. Michael Rolfe, guys, it's insane to forward the narrative of we don't run it enough. Imagine if Saquon was on the Bengals. Jeanty might be that. We need defense. Chase Brown scares no one. I don't agree with that.
I don't know if Chase Brown doesn't scare no one.
That's not true.
But I would say this, man. I think Jeanty does make this offense better if he is on the team with Chase Brown. I do think that he's able to kind of, like Maan said, you got to have somebody that can close out the games. You got to have somebody that can put a stake in it. Would I want to do it at 17? No, but I do.
Thank you, Divine.
I do think I'm tired of passing on good players that are just there. And I think when you see teams that don't necessarily have a need, like the Eagles, when they see a Jalen Carter is there and they don't necessarily need it, but they still take him because he's the best player available.
Yeah, the Lions didn't have to draft Jahmyr Gibbs.
They did it. I think sometimes it works out. So I'm not saying that it has to be Jeanty. If it's Walter Nolan or whoever it is, like I think the Bengals do need to start just saying, let's take the best available player. Because when we leave them up to their own devices and they're like, oh, we think this guy has so much potential, he can play more than one position and this and that, and then you Dax Hilling your situation and you still don't know what the guy is in year 3. and you're Miles Murphy in your situation, like I don't know if I'm ready to sign up for that.
Did you just make Dax Hill into a verb?
Yeah, Dax Hill in your situation, bro.
Listen,
if you live long enough, you'll become an adjective there.
I did make Jeremy Hill into a verb too, but listen, this is the one thing about the whole Jeanty thing. We're sitting here arguing about all this. The Cowboys are taking Jeanty. He's not making it to 17. He's not going to make it to 17. So we can argue all this. It's great talk, but there's no way Jeanty is going past the Cowboys. No way.
I agree. It's a fun entertain. I didn't know what tonight's show was going to be about, but apparently it was supposed to be about Jeanty. And I've kind of seen this. It's extreme on both sides. It's either you really want Jeanty and you have no problem, or you absolutely despise the idea. There's no in between when I've seen this topic on like Twitter or anybody talking about it. But
I want somebody to pound the ball. I want a 230-pound back. I want Taj Brooks from Texas Tech. Somebody like that could come in and punish some people. But I agree with Divine, man. We need defensive tackles. We really do. We need a defensive
pass rush.
Maan wants Christian Okoye.
We haven't had this very open Joby.
The Nigerian nightmare for the win.
Yeah,
for sure.
Taj Brooks from Texas Tech is 5'11", 230. He'd be a battering ram. Somebody like that in the 5th round would be great.
For sure. Well, we're going to have to do this once again this offseason. We'll definitely bring the fellas back. We'll have to talk about the draft and everything going on. If you guys are not tuning in to the Bengals Pulse, what are you doing with your life? Make sure that you guys check them out over there every time that they go live. Also, make sure that you follow everybody here. It's the Wincinnati @WincinnatiPod on Twitter. Jake, give them the exact Twitter for Bengals Pulse 9 because I don't want to mess it up.
@Bengals_Pulse9. @Bengals_Pulse9. Give us a follow. Check us out. We appreciate it.
Yep. So appreciate you guys for tuning in. We still have a sponsor to get to, so we're going to go ahead.
Hold on, before you do that, hold on. Let me just read this off real quick. Divine had a super chat. We have to stop neglecting.
Yeah. We talked about it. We talked about it already.
We got that one. Then the KP from KC. I got to blow it up with my screen.
Green, Nolan, Pierce, or Jeanty. Pick. We're going Nolan.
I'd take Pierce. He's from Tennessee, I believe.
Pierce has come up today with character stuff is what a couple teams are saying now that they took him off his board. And I don't think it's like they're making it up too. So that's something to keep an eye on.
Give me Green.
Michael Ross says, if you guys want a DE lock to be stud, Ashton Gillespie from Louisville in the 2nd round. I'm your free Louisville scout and was preaching Yaya Diaby last year. I appreciate
Make it happen, dude. Make it happen, Michael.
Yes, sir.
We need the other Ashton. So with that being said, we're going to toss it over to our sponsor, Midwest Best Barbecue.
G-Funk wings and them CTVs. Midwest Best is the place to be for curing wings. Midwest Best is the place to be for curing wings. It's the AC to the Zim, M to the B's. Uno wings, G-Funk wings and them CTVs. Midwest Best is the place to be for curing wings. Midwest Best is the place to be for curing wings. Say what up with Jordan Battle. We be going to battle. Intercepting balls like CTV did on Seattle. Putting 6 up on AZ. Juice gang amazing. Make sure you come get these wings. The Zimby stay blazing. And T-Game be smooth as ice. Jamal making DBs fold. TV got big levels. And now you already know. Hits so pretty for Uno wings. Cam got the new wings. We call them CTBs. Only at MBs. H to the Zim. M to the B's.
Out to Midwest Best Barbecue. Great food, great people. Let them know the Bengals Pulse and Ace and Zim sent you. We've all been there. They have great food, barbecue, wings, some of the best wings in the city, by the way. Grippo wings, G-Funk wings, definitely check them out. CTB wings, Dillinator wings, all of them are good. You guys let us know. Somebody at me on Twitter and let me know what's your top 5 Midwest Best barbecue items are. You got some mac and cheese there. That's a hard list to put together. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. Did anybody want to say anything before we get off of here?
I appreciate you guys. Great show. Aces M, you guys are the best. I love being a part of Wincinnati.
You guys are the best as well. I guess there's nothing else to say but who dey?
Who dey?
Who dey?